Basically, my latest video was titled King Thornton I and his Knights 12. So it basically went over what we know about both King Thornton and his knights, as well as some things about the Dragonstorm War. It didn't actually start that way. I actually started it just about King Thornton and the Knights 12. It turned into like a 2-minute script video. And I was like, you know what, I can't not mention the Dragonstorm War in detail because their story is just so tied to it. So it ended up just as much being a tale about the dawning of the Dragonstorm War as well as their tale, because they're the ones that kicked it off essentially. Also, their shields are abnormally large. Have you noticed that? Look at the size of that shield. That is huge. That shield is bigger than me. And he's not even holding it. He's not even holding the shield. But I suppose they did that just for purposes, because they wanted the shield to rest on the ground. Similar to what you'd see in a medieval city, for example. But that's interesting. I've never noticed that before. But yeah, the shield is just overly sized. And then you have King Thornton, who is resting up here and has his big sword. I was pretty curious about that as well, because King Thornton, his statue here anyway, is showing him with a sword. But in the made up fake tale, he's assumed to be a lancer, or a dragoon rather, because in the made up tale, when King Thornton fell, Haldras picked up his spear, so he had a spear. But as we know, that's not what happened. Nobody picked up anybody's weapon, as far as we're aware. Haldras just used his normal dragoon spear, because as far as I'm aware, he was the only dragoon in their company. He was the first Azure dragoon, but I don't think the others were dragoons. But we don't even know their names, so like we don't even know Haldras' history. We don't even know King Thornton's history, to be perfectly honest. Like, their backstory is nigh non-existent. We don't know anything about them prior to them actually showing up and killing Ratatoskr. Although we do know at least that King Thornton was taken under the sway, or manipulated rather, by the Scions. Harsifont resembles the Four Toms founder most, even though he's an illegitimate son. It's very true. He took after his father rather splendidly, didn't he? He seems like the most, but I suppose because he was he was the bastard. He wanted to prove himself a lot more, so he put a lot more diligent work into his efforts. Like, he fought tooth and nail to become a knight. So Harsifont went through a lot of stuff in order to get where he was, so he's the true heir in my eyes. Do I consider that Moogles existed in the 13th? I'm going to say yes, because there's too many parallels between the species of one shard and the other reflections. So, for example, Lalafels exist on the 1st, as they do on the other worlds, so do the other races. It stands to reason that Moogles would as well, because a lot of different Beastkin, Vilekin, Scalekin exist on the Source as well as on the 1st, and would it be assumed to have existed on the 13th? So my answer is yes. I would have considered Moogles to have existed on the 13th. As to what they would have turned into, I would have said, given their power levels, it's kind of like a Dragon Ball Z reference, I would have said they would have turned into a lower case of Voidsent. So similar to an imp, essentially. So an imp is in the lower tier of the scale of Voidsent. So I would have said they would have turned into imps. But honestly, I think it's entirely dependent on the power of the individual. So what they turn into depends on how much Aether they had when they turned, because Voidsent grows stronger the more Aether they absorb. So yeah, I'd say a standard Moogle would have become an imp. Others might have become something different entirely. I really hope we get to the answer to that, because if we can start turning some Voidsent back into normal, I don't think it's possible at this stage, but anything may be possible if we do restore the 13th, which is not going to be quick. Who would you proclaim is the most popular of the 12 as we are fighting them through midst of the realm? Who is the most popular of the 12? They all have equal representation in terms of lore on the world of Aetheris, essentially. Well, specifically for Eorzea, because the worship of the 12 is indicative of Eorzea. It's hard to say. They all have their own places because they all have a significant amount of worship from the peoples of Eorzea. Like Limsa Leminsa worship Limlane, Nofika, Gridania, Halone, Ishgard, etc. It's hard to pin down. I mean, the new ones have been interesting, but I felt that the fights were too easy. I did enjoy Melfina's fights, but I'm still not a fan of her design. She still looks far too lolly for my taste. And I love Dalamud. Like, that's the best puppy ever. But if I was gonna say Halone is probably probably the best, because I enjoyed the fight and her design overall is amazing, especially with her really long hair. But also the fact that her design is almost identical to how the Ishgardians actually portray her in designs of artwork and also statues. So we can actually go up and see her now. Waiting for Golbez to be revealed as King Mog. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. He's going to be revealed to be something. I don't think he's just Golbez for the sake of being Golbez. He was something else, because he is a Voidsent. He didn't keep his normal form as far as we're aware when he transformed. But you can see Halone's statue here. The very long hair, the shield, the spear, which is why she wields them herself. But her design is very linked to it, except for the visor. She doesn't have a visor in the statue, but nor would she. Justice in Ishgard, unlike with other countries, is not blind. But yeah, you can see that she has the flowing long hair as well, which is likely what influenced Halone's design by Fate and Dynamis. Hope it's okay to ask, what's your accent called? I love listening to your videos in the background. I appreciate that, thank you. My accent is technically Irish, because I am Irish, naturally. But my accent is a bit weird, because my wife is Canadian. So, we've been married well over a decade at this point, and we knew each other far longer before that. So, as we both interacted, I started picking up parts of her accent. At the same time, she started picking up parts of my accent. So my accent is a weird cross between a Dubliner accent, a native Irish accent, and then a bit of a Canadian accent where it just straightens out some of my words. So that's essentially what my accent is. It's Irish with a splash of Canadian. Irish accents are hard to subdue. I definitely agree with that. Like, my accent is fairly normal because I live in Dublin. But if you go down the countryside, like down to Limerick or Cork or Tipperary, the accents really go through a definite change. I can understand them perfectly fine, but for anybody else, if you're trying to listen to it, it'll probably just pass right over your head. It's like listening to somebody with a very deep Scottish accent. Like, I can understand a deep Scottish accent perfectly fine, but anybody else will be listening to it just going, I can't really understand, because they talk quicker, I've noticed that, but it's just some of the words would kind of blend together to the point where an English speaker probably wouldn't be able to fully grasp it. Even though they're speaking English, they're speaking in a deep Scottish accent. So happily my accent's not like that. It never has been. I have a standard Dublin accent. Do you think we'll ever find out where the Garlean Third eye comes from? That's a video I actually plan to do sometime down the line. As I recall, the Gogans didn't have it. The nation of Gog is a pretty weird topic because we don't actually know much about them. It's something I do want to research, so I can't answer that yet. I do wish to receive the remaining legions, if they're even still intact. That's, it's a good point. Most of the legions, as we know, are gone because the Empire is gone. But I'm still a proponent of some secret legions actually still being out there, because we haven't gotten information about all the legions. I think about 8 out of 12 or 8 out of 14 we know a lot of information about. The rest we don't really know much about. Like, we don't know much about the legions who went to the Eorzean Alliance, for example, midway during Endwalker, and asked for the Alliance's aid, essentially. And that's how we got Nerva. Oh, not Nerva. What the hell's his name? Oh, sorry. Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. What is his name? I can't remember his name. But yeah, I still believe that there's legions around. They've broken off and became their own little sub-faction. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw one knocking around Mericidia, for example. Or just in a different part of the world, sent out as a an exploratory legion in order to pick up information, gather new technology. Or they might be in some of the other regions nearby that they used to hold. So, Naxia, for a prime example. But we never heard anything from that legion. It was only like a literal 3 sentences that said, the legion approached the Eorzean Alliance for aid. We never heard anything about them afterwards. They didn't return to Garlemald, apparently, as far as we know. I just want more cool armoured folks. I want to see more cool armour. I fully agree. Like, I want to see more Garlean-inspired armour, because they do have some very flashy armour. I'd say most of that is probably gone or destroyed, but I'd say there's a lot of it lying in vaults or hidden storage areas. I'd love to just get my hands on it, because Garlean armour is something special. And they do have some special techniques as well, like similar to what we saw of Gaius with his armour. You love the cute hat? Thank you very much. My precious Spriggan, who comes with me anytime I go to a live event as well. So if I go to Distant Worlds, he's always there. Fanfest especially, I'll always be wearing my Spriggan as well. So I'm looking forward to this Fanfest in order to wear my Spriggan again and to meet everybody as well. The Bodger armor was cool. Fanfest 12 inspired. Not sure if you consider that Garlean. I would consider that Garlean, to be honest, because the Garleans are heavily inspired by the Arcadian Empire, along with the other empires, essentially, like the empires you'd see in 6 and the other games as well. Like, the Garleans take a direct inspiration from it, as they do from ancient Rome. So I would love to see more armors like that, because our armors are getting rather weird. Like, my armor's very old, but do I have yeah, my Gunbreaker's wearing, like, my Gunbreaker's wearing the new Alliance Raid one, which is really nice. I really like it. But that is a topic I wanted to bring up as well. I was going to bring it up in a different video, but I may as well bring it up right now. Are the new races like Viera and Hrothgar limiting what they can or can't do with armor designs? The armors that we see lately are compensating for, it's probably the best way I can put it, for the fact that Viera and Hrothgar still have issues in terms of their armor, because not all headsets they can wear, for example. Like, my Onion Helm is a prime example. My Onion Helm can't be worn by Viera, and it can't be worn by Hrothgar. It doesn't fit them at all. Like, how would you get Viera ears to work with my Onion Helm? I don't think you could. It's just a weird thing. Like, I've said this in a previous stream, but I remember years ago, before Viera was even a concept. Well, it was a concept, but it wasn't official. And I remember saying, we're never going to get Viera, because their ears wouldn't work for most of the armors that are in FF14. And they came along, but they still don't work, even years down the line now. Their ears just don't work. Like, it just... floppy, it doesn't work. I mean, they're brilliant models. I love Hrothgar and Viera models. They're brilliant. But I have a feeling that the latest armors we've been seeing lately are having to heavily compensate their designs because of Viera and Hrothgar. I mean, every armor that is put into the game needs to be changed somewhat for every race. So, for example, the chest piece I'm wearing is one that was added in the latest Alliance raid. This chess piece needs to be designed to fit my Lalafell, female Lalafell, and every other race in the game. So it needs to be designed to fit a Hrothgar, it needs to fit a Viera, it needs to fit an Elazin, so on, so on, so on. So every bit of armor has to go through a significant amount of design in order to fit races and fit every size model, essentially. So, especially with headpieces, I have noticed the headpieces are very limited lately. So, I am of the opinion, like, here's, I have a headpiece here, so this is the healing helmet from the Alliance raid, so let me try that on real quick. Now look at that. Look at this headpiece. It's a visor. So this thing would work for a Viera, it would work for a Hrothgar, and it would work for every other race, but that's all it is, it's a visor. This is, in my opinion, is a perfect example of them compensating for the fact that Viera and Hrothgar are still broken and they need to design new headsets around them, essentially. So this thing needs to fit everybody. As far as I'm aware, it fits everybody. If a Viera wore this, I think they could wear it. I don't see a reason why they couldn't. But that's a prime example. So I have a feeling that creativity is being limited by Viera and Hrothgar. It's not Viera and Hrothgar's fault, it's just the fact that they released them in a broken state and they still haven't fixed it. I mean, granted, there are certain headpieces that are never going to fit a Viera, short of equipping the onion helm and making their ears disappear. Which, okay, valid, but yeah, it just doesn't work. And Hrothgar's heads are very different as well, so my onion helm is very spherical. Hrothgar's heads aren't fully spherical as far as I'm aware. I think it kind of protrudes back a bit. And we're going to be getting female Hrothgar as well, so that's going to be the last one. I'm hoping to the 12 that that's the last race we get. Female Hrothgar. With that, I just want to scream to the devs, do not add another race. We do not need another race in this game. We have more than enough, thank you very much. I know people love new races, but anytime they add a new race, they add a significant amount of developer time onto it, because you need to make every armor in the game fit that new race, but you need to make every armor that you're going to develop fit that new race along with all the others that you've added. I think we're in a good place. We have a lot of good races. We have all the boxes ticked for great examples of races in the Final Fantasy universe. We don't need another. We're happy with the way we are. You can add new tribes and stuff like that, just don't make them playable. My Viera FC mate is salty about the new Loporrit emote. Just, oh yes. Let me show. I actually had the video right here. So this video has been going mad ever since. So floppy. What's up with you? What's up with you? What's on? Alright, sit down. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed. Good girl. But yeah, that video has been doing the rounds. It's sad, of course. But it's also, yeah. I mean, what did they expect? It's an emote that puts 2 ears on your head and does a floppy. But Viera already have 2 big ears on their head. I'm assuming they thought that the ears would actually flop, but they wouldn't. But it's a classic example of Viera just being a very unique race in that not everything is going to work for them. So not all armors work for them. And an emote like that doesn't work for them because they already have 2 ears and it just looks weird. I mean, if it made their ears disappear for a second and did that, I'd say it would probably work. If it made their ears disappear, but that would require you to make the ears entirely independent of the head. which technically they already are because you can change your ear style. But yeah, it looks janky, doesn't it? I mean, I remember laughing at it, but if I was a Vieira main, I'd say I'd be probably pretty upset. But yeah, my next topic is... Where is it? Well, I've glamoured over it, but the Manderville weapons of this patch. I can't be the only person here who was extremely disappointed by the fact that they literally gave us a repeat of what we just did. Most of us expected some sort of grind. Make us run 10 dungeons, fine. Make me do 50 fates. I love fates. I'd happily do fates. Making me just grind tomes again just to give me my next upgrade does nothing but annoy me. So the only thing we got out of this is a new weapon and a cutscene. That's all we got. Cutscene was good. I will admit it was an interesting cutscene. Not watching Geralt get oiled up, but watching him fight a very weak mammoth was pretty funny. But just another tome grind in order to do that. And I already had the tomes, so I got my weapon easily. And yeah, that's how I got my book upgrade. Just by doing that. I mean, it's not this weapon, of course, because it did look shiny, but I don't really like shiny weapons. But I was just disappointed. I wanted something else. I wanted something to sink my teeth into. I mean, granted, I do now have a grind ahead of me in order to grind out the rest of my weapons, because I'll need to grind tomes. But I was doing that anyway. We do that as part of our daily routine. My daily front lines gives me tomes. You got to play as Godbert in the Manderville quest was very good. I enjoyed the new Manderville quest. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it was very good. And we finally got an explanation to why Godbert was actually running around in the trailer. We were waiting for that. But yeah, the weapon to me was a big disappointment. I'm not really sure why they chose to go that route. I'll be perfectly honest, it felt lazy. I'm sure they had their reasons for doing it this way, but repeating the exact same step that we just did of spending 1500 tomes on 3 meteorites. We thought that was the start in order to get our weapons, but then you made us do it again. I mean, people love it. Like, people are very happy to have easy access to weapons like that. And granted, that's perfectly fine, but that's not what relics used to be. Like, relics started with the Zodiac Braves as some of the grindiest pieces of content the game has ever seen. And it got toned down a tiny bit for Heaven's Ward, a tiny bit more for Stormblood. Shadowbringers was very good. I enjoyed the relic grind for that because it involved Bosja. And this one, so far, is turning out to be meh. We still don't have a physical range DPS character on the main focus cast. That's very true. I'm hoping for a dancer. Like, if we could get a dancer in the scions, I think I'd be very happy. I mean, I have noted from the lore that some of our other scions are actually looking into other fields of study. Like, for example, Clements. Sorry, I forgot your name, Clements. I'm sorry. But yeah, Clements is here studying astrologian arts, essentially. She's already an astrologian. But it turns out she actually plans to study to be a scholar next. She mentioned that in the latest event. Or the Valentine's event, because she featured in it. She said she was going to plan to study to be a scholar as well. So I think the casts like this are going to be at the forefront. So I think we're actually going to get some new ranged at the forefront of our adventures as well. Would you like another specialized zone like Eureka or Bosja for relic weapons in the future? You did a Zodiac weapon and you can't stomach another. The grind was unreal. But this actually goes to my next topic as well. A lot of people lately have been talking about the content drought. Now, I know it's not a very popular subject because, in my opinion, there is no content drought in this game because this game is chock full of content. If we're not doing any main content at the moment, we have years of catalogued content you could literally do. If you haven't finished Eureka, finish Eureka. If you haven't finished Bosja, finish Bosja. We have so many relic weapons, we have so many different things. So in my opinion, there's no content drought, but other people are talking about it like the fact that we have 4 months between main patches. I will admit it does feel very long between main patches. And I mentioned this in my last stream as well. From one alliance raid to the next alliance raid is an 8-month gap. That's a severe gap. Do I have any crazy theories that might come for the future of the FF14 story? I have a million theories. I have not been quiet about my theories. As I've already mentioned in a lot of my videos, I have a million theories about what could or what will be. I am still a main proponent of the theory that there's going to be a time skip with 7.0. I still firmly believe that time skip is coming, that we're going to jump a few years for some reason, and then we're going to proceed from there. Our characters are going to go through certain levels of development. The world is going to see a few cosmetic changes, like Ishgard, for example, still looks the same. There's still bricks lying on some parts of the broom. This place should be cleaned up by now. Ugh. But yeah, I am a firm believer that a time skip is on the way. But a crazy theory, other than that, other than the time skip, my other crazy theory is there's going to be a piece of content involved where we're going to be required to go back to the past. My main reason for that is another video I uploaded a good while ago, which was my theory explaining the fact that as time progresses in our present, time is progressing in our portal to the past in Elpis. My main theory for that, and my main excuse for that, is the Pandemonium raids themselves. As the Pandemonium raids are progressing, that is showing that time is progressing. Because when we go back, we're not always going back to the same time. Because if we were going back to the same point in time, we'd constantly be running into Emmett Selk, which is not happening. Time is moving forward at the same pace. So eventually we're going to intersect with the beginning of the final days, which is my theory that we're going to be going back to play some sort of part in probably preserving an element of Amarot, for example. The twins finally getting their growth spurt. Yeah, that's the other thing for the future theory as well. If we do a time skip, that would make them grow into more adults. They are, like, I know they're still young, but they're extremely short for Ellison. Does anybody not feel that? Like, even I'm a Lalafell and I still feel like a giant next to them. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them grow up a little bit. And my main theory for the fact that there would be a time skip is because of the major graphical overhaul that's coming with 7.0. So the game is going to look very different. So it's a perfect excuse to jazz everything up, make everything look like time has actually passed. Ellison don't hit their full height until around 20. The twins are 16 at the start of A Realm Reborn. And they haven't aged a day since, have they? The only way that we actually show their ages is with a changing of hairstyles and a changing of outfits, which is a very clever tactic if you think about it. The models don't change, but you can make them look and act more mature based on their voice dialogue, their dress, their hairstyles, and the art that they're picking up. So they did an incredible job of making them much more mature than they actually are. It's like Ash Ketchum. He changes his outfit every season, essentially. Changes his cap, changes his Pokemon. Makes him seem more mature without him constantly being reminded that he's always 10 years old. He doesn't age. How do you feel about Alice and Alphino not looking identical anymore? I'm fine with that. Because they looked far too alike in A Realm Reborn, and that was actually, I recall that was actually a complaint. People were like, I can't tell them apart. They were too young to tell them apart. And honestly, if you dress them the same right now, if you put them both in the same outfit, you'd have a hard time telling them apart. I'm not going to discuss anything else regarding this patch because that's spoilers, essentially. So I'm not going to go too much into the Loporits. Although technically I could, but I'm not going to go into Eureka. I've already seen multiple floors of Eureka already. It's been brilliant. I have to say, the new Eureka has worked out exactly as I wanted it. From a lore perspective, I'm extremely happy. Extremely angry and extremely sad, but extremely happy for the content itself. So, the lore makes me upset. Co aka Noah, makes me very upset. But another video for her another day. She crosses my mind essentially like Ko, aka Noah, as a quintessential Allegan. She seems very emotionally detached. I'm not going to go too much into it though. I don't want to spoil anything. So I'd recommend looking at the Eureka content if you haven't yet, because it is interesting. But yeah, I'll probably do something on that later down the line when it's a bit older. I don't like covering content that's too new because, yeah, I end up spoiling stuff, and I don't like spoiling stuff anymore. Does Eureka reference the plot of Eureka and everything that happened? It doesn't reference Eureka. Well, it kind of references Eureka in terms of the naming convention. So, Eureka Orthus was apparently a place of legend in lore, essentially, which is why the current Eureka that we had in Stormblood was named after this place. But it wasn't until now that we actually knew that Eureka actually existed and was underneath the Crystal Tower. I'm frankly shocked though that Grahatia didn't know anything about it. But I'm also of the opinion that maybe he did know something about it, but he chose not to actually tell anybody or get anybody involved. Although Ko's attitude towards Graha was a bit annoying to me as well, which is why Ko as a character, well, not Ko, it's Noah. Noah as a character annoys me. I mean, her new dress as well it's very flashy. It's elegant, definitely elegant, but it just doesn't work for me. It's way too silvery, way too glossy. You know what? Screw it. I'll show you who she is. I'm not going to dive into the lore of this, but I'll just show you what she is, and then I'll come back here and discuss my next topic. Folks are saying this patch was lazy because of creativity. User 3 are focused more on 16 right now. 16 is essentially completed, though. That's the thing. It's mainly testing, polish, publishing, advertising, marketing that needs to be done. For the most part, they're just polishing stuff up. The game is essentially done. So it's in the last stages of its development, essentially. But that business unit is constantly busy. Like, even when 16 gets shipped, they still need to do patches for it. They still need to do bug fixes for it. And they have to support and develop stuff for 14 at the same time. Right, so here's Noah, aka Ko. I'm not a fan of this outfit. I'm a fan of the Allegan elements. Like, I'm assuming these luminous parts of our outfit are designed to channel Aether into them, similar to what a Black Mage's crystals does, and everybody's crystals does. But I'm just not a fan of her design. I don't like the open front. I'm not a fan. I love the collar. We have that collar already, but I'm just not a fan of the open front like that. I mean, it looks cobbled together. It looks like she just grabbed a bunch of random stuff out of the shop and just ran with it. It doesn't look harmonious. Like look at her. Her outfit is harmonious. Kind of harmonious. Well, these are players, but this doesn't look harmonious. It looks thrown together. I also don't like what they did with her hair. I mean, look at her hair. It's clipping through the back. Why did they make her have a ponytail? They should have put her hair in a bun or something. Ugh, this color annoys me. It's another prime example of just like, why? Why did you do this? Why did you do this to us? Her outfit looks like one of my characters dungeon leveling up and just putting on whatever fits and boosts. That's my thoughts about her. Oh, I love this robe. Look at that. That is a nice glam. That is a lovely glam. I have to tell her. I love your glamour. Probably a bit of a rush job from Rowena's. I'd probably say you're right, because Rowena isn't the one that did this. And she did specifically say she made this outfit because Ko's etheric affinity is very non-existent, apparently. So she needed this outfit in order to cast spells. But I'm standing here going, why? You didn't even come into Eureka with us. You didn't need this damn outfit. The only reason you have this outfit is because you felt the need to change from looking like them to looking like this. And I don't like this outfit. I like some of the elements. Like, I like the design elements. Like, the glowing elements are nice. But overall, it looks like a level 65 person leveling up. And they threw on random things from 5 different dungeons. I'm going to address this in a later video as well, because the next patch that's coming up is the conclusion of the story arc, essentially. I have a feeling it's going to conclude with 6.4. And 6.5 is going to be the patch that leads us into 7.0. So there's a piece of side content that's been introduced alongside the major patches. So patch 6.2, 6.3, and a specific quest here where a Voidsent is in Razadhan, and he's giving us insights into the 4 generals of Golbez, and even Golbez himself to an extent. And he's telling us the stories as if he's already been there. But I'm firstly curious about who the heck this thing is. It's a Hectai, if I recall correctly, that's the exact name. But it's also made up of multiple Voidsent, or apparently, or just splits of a single personality. We don't know if this is a single personality, but I'm going to assume it's a single person, but just gets broken up due to what they are. But my main curiosity about this creature is the fact that it knows so much about the 4 generals. Like, if you're watching the quests, or if you're doing this quest, and you watch the cutscenes about the 4 generals, when the 4 generals individually are talking to Golbez in their own respective domains, in their own respective areas, in multiple areas around the 13th, you see one of the pieces of this hanging around in the background. And I'm like, what is this thing's connection? In that it knows so much about the 4 generals, and likely knows a lot about Golbez. But what's its part? Is it here just to tell us is it the narrator? Is it here just to tell us a story? Or is it something else? Does this thing have a connection to Golbez that we don't know about yet? Like, this thing could have been... It could have been related to who originally Golbez was, but the fact that it knows so much about the 4 generals, and the eyes hanging around in the background, is just really strange. They might have just done that just to narrate it, just to tell us the story, because this quest was designed just to tell us a bit more about the generals. But I just found it unusual that this thing has access to creatures like that, which is unusual to me. I have come to a decision that I don't want to make content that perishes easily. So I don't want to make a video and invest a lot of time and energy into a video. I mean, it's good that it entertains, but I don't like the fact that a video can go obsolete within a few weeks. So if I make a big theory video about the 12 and then 2 weeks later the 12 content launches, that video is irrelevant then afterwards. So appreciate it, Zeno, thank you. So I've decided to make content that will last a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, as long as the game lasts, essentially. I want to try and make content that lasts as long as possible, which is why I'm using the streaming platform now in order to discuss different theories, topics, and then clip them and put them into individual videos. So that way I can focus more on my lore videos, which is what everybody loves to watch. Fanfest. So, as you've probably been hearing for the last few weeks, Fanfest is on the way. So we're going to get the NA Fanfest first, then EU, then Japanese Fanfest. It has been causing a fair amount of stress, for lack of a better word, for a lot of people. Primarily because there is a lottery system for all the tickets now. NA went through a lottery just recently. EU is about to go through its own lottery. So I'm somebody who's been to every Fanfest, or every EU one anyway. So I'm as apprehensive as everybody else about getting a ticket, but I do have a bunch of friends who are going as well. So in the event that one of us doesn't get a ticket, the other gets a ticket. I've already made an agreement with one of my friends in order to be doing this, but it's been causing a lot of drama in the community because of the nature of what it is. I mean, a lot of people don't recall what happened with the last NA one. So, for example, we didn't have a lottery for the last NA Fanfest, which was, I believe it was 2018. They had the Fanfest first, didn't they? Or 2019? It was probably early 2019. But the point I'm trying to make is the last NA sale for Fanfest was a disaster. The site kept crashing, people were scalping tickets and selling tickets on eBay. It was, for lack of a better word, an absolute crap show. So people were begging for a lottery, but again, this was before COVID, so most people don't remember what happened before COVID. Like, COVID seems like a million years ago, and before COVID seems like 10,000 years ago in my opinion. But people seem to have quickly forgotten that we asked for a lottery. We were like, we don't like the fact that this was becoming first come, first served. We want a lottery. We want a fair system. And now that we got a fair system, people are like, oh no, we have a chance of not getting a ticket. We asked for it. And it's to be expected as well. With as big as FF14 has gotten, and the events can't be very big, it makes sense to have a lottery. I mean, yes, it does suck if a person like myself, I don't get a ticket. I love Fanfest. I go to every Fanfest. Or if others don't get tickets, and then it is what it is. It is a lottery. It has to. It's the most fair system they can come up with. But it has been causing a fair amount of stress, controversy, anger. But it has been causing a number of issues for other players as well. Like, for example, with the NA one, people have been selling fake codes on the likes of eBay and other grey area sites. And people have been buying them. Even though there's no codes. We don't have any codes. Not yet. Or people are using their code immediately to buy their ticket in NA and then selling the code. It's turned into an absolute crap fest, essentially. It's turning into a fire festival sort of thing. We shall see what happens. I forgot to pay the lottery, but it looks like he would be rather fast. Oh, did you forget? Ah, that sucks. But honestly, Will, you're probably not too late. I have a feeling that NA's ticket sales are going to go to general. So you may still be within a chance to get another ticket. The main reason I say it's going to do that is because the Fanfest controversy has brought up a lot of, well, it's brought up its own share of controversy, essentially. But the community has gotten so involved with it lately that people with active subscription accounts have been signing up to the lotteries with no intention of buying a ticket. So, from what I've been able to research and what I've seen people say, a lot of people have done that. So a lot of people won the lottery who never planned to buy a ticket in the first place. So what's going to happen is those codes are going to expire and those tickets are going to go into the general sale. So keep an eye on the general sale. The general sale is going to be more than likely going up. Like, it's not like with the last Fanfest for NA where it sold out within a couple of hours. And I think EU is going to be the same. I think a lot of people signed up who had no intention of buying a ticket in the first place. It's going to hit general sale as well. But it also means less people who had a legitimate interest in going to Fanfest are not going to get a ticket. Because in the end, the only requirement was having an active FF14 subscription, which pretty much every one of us has. So, yeah, it is... I get where Square Enix was going, but they chose the lesser of two evils when they made the system. Like, making the lottery, that was a great thing. The way they went about it, not so much. And then even the tickets are not even shaping up the way they're supposed to. The tickets are only going to have... Well, I think they're going to have the... Yeah, they're just going to have names on them. They're not going to have the account holder's name, for example. So they won't have my Square Enix account ID or name on it. So that's causing a fair amount of controversy as well. But it's calmed down. But it's going to start up again on the 15th or so when the EU sales start. But I suppose if anybody... Oh, the last thing I wanted to do, sorry. So this is the last thing I wanted to do. As I said, I haven't answered the questions on this on the actual video yet. So I wanted to actually just go through it myself now and just see what the questions are and answer them live on stream as well. So, oh, here's Chrissy. Hello. Ratatoskr herself told Thornton about the power of the Dragon's Eye, among other things, in the spirit of understanding between their peoples. Is that true? I didn't read that. And while it's unknown if Thornton was planning to strike at the dragons prior to this, the attack on Ratatoskr came after she stated that Nidhogg believed that mortals were too weak to protect the star. Thornton seemed to think they were meant that dragonkind might try and take over from mortals. That's interesting. I never realized that. I'll respond to you after though. That's a good catch, Chrissy. I wonder if Gibber Longton, the Forgotten Knight, is the actual knight that walked away. If he was one of the ones that devoured the eyes, he may not age. That's a good thing to think about. I mean, we know that Haldrat didn't age because he had one of the eyes embedded within him. But that's an actual eye with a lot more power rather than a fraction of the power he took from Ratatoskr. It's entirely possible that the knight in question did actually live a lot longer. But 1,000 years? I'm not certain. You frankly have me curious now. I'm going back here for a second. Gibberland. His hair color is different. Although, the Echo scene was in black and white. Let me find a picture. I mean, he does have a scar. The scar is the same. Doesn't have the beard, but it's facial hair. I mean, you could change that easily enough. Hair color, not so much. He has black hair. It is interesting though, he has the same scar. No, it's not him. The chin is different. Nose is a bit different as well. Look at the nostrils. So it's not him. But it's just really convenient that he has the same scar. No, it's not him. Well, it's entirely possible that he could have been a descendant, or it's probably just coincidence because he is modeled after him and he does the dialogue. So they probably just put the scar there just to tease us. Interesting though. That's an interesting one. Like, I was almost like, I saw the scar and I was like, holy moly, that is not actually it, is it? Alright. It sounds noble, despite how evil he is, he and his father and their men were. For what they did, they murdered a friend of their kingdom, of their people, in the name of power, all because Thornton was disillusional and scared. Essentially, yeah. Like, they had the Ascian behind him as well. It's almost positive that he's an influence behind there, because he was the influence behind Thornton the Seventh as well. So Elidibus and La Habrea, and they've been around a long time. You completely forgot about the War of the Magi. Well, I didn't forget about it. It was in my mind. The only reason I didn't mention it is because the Dragonsong War and Ishgard come after the War of the Magi. So after the Astral Era comes in, where the Calamity of Water happens, the War of the Magi essentially ends. I'm fairly positive some of the Elezen that migrated north to found Ishgard were part of one of these nations at one point. But no, I didn't forget about it, but it just wasn't at the forefront of my mind, nor was it the subject of the video. FF14 players, meet when I once again queue for the royal city of Rabanastre. Is it to be a fight then? I am only happy to oblige. So I'm assuming he got the reference I was going for. So the reference I was doing was how the intro. I am the lies upon which you sup, where I go over the fake tale. I am revelation, saying this is revelation. I am the truth from which you run, and you will be judged. Yeah. I'm glad somebody got it. Thank you. I think the pub is traditionally passed down between retired knights. I think that's a proper way of doing it as well. I think you're right about that. I recognise that music anywhere. I didn't know dragons had the power to... Oh, that's the only comment I replied to before I decided I wasn't going to do it. So, they don't. A dragon doesn't have the ability to enthrall people. So the lies went as far as they were saying dragons had the power of primals. Essentially, they gave any excuse to say dragons bad, we kill, essentially. He claims he wants to repent for his sins, and yet he went about killing more dragons to protect the people from his evil deeds. How is that repenting? It was to protect the people of Ishgard from reprisals from the Dravanians that resulted from his and the knight's actions. That's not atonement. Real atonement is trying to make peace for the wrong party. Both points are valid, but I think Haldrath passed the point of no return, so the only way he was choosing to atone was in his own mind, essentially. Haldrath is not a hero. He is still an evil being, along with the others, who murdered an innocent dragon and mutilated her and took her eyes. And I suppose they just found no way back because of what they did in Nidhogg as well. They crossed the point of no return when they killed Ratatoskr. There was no excuse they could have said to say, okay, we're sorry, can we have peace again? Not going to happen. After what Nidhogg did as well. Nidhogg descended upon them and they had to go through a massive fight and they plucked out his eyes. I assume they just thought there's a path of no return. We've doomed our people now to a war that could probably rage on for generations, which it did. So Haldrath repenting, he wasn't repenting for the dragons. He was repenting for his own people. He was finding repentance in their eyes by helping them and defending them from the Dravanian horde. Everybody, that is all I wanted to go through. As I said, I will try and chop this video up, assuming the quality was okay. I'm hoping it is. I tried to ramp up the quality. And I'll try and clip it and upload it, but as of right now, I'm working on my next video. I'm not going to mention what it is yet, because I actually have 2 videos in the works. I'm not deciding on which one I'm going to make yet, because one of them will easily be my largest video I've ever uploaded. And the other is an interesting concept I've only thought about, but I still need to flesh it out. So, with that, I wish everybody a very good evening, good morning, good afternoon. And after my next video is uploaded, I'll likely do another stream. Or, if there's enough topics and discussions, that warrants just a stream on its own. But anyway, people, I thank you very, very much. And have a good one. Have a good night, morning, afternoon.